The sun hung high over the endless plains of Arizona Territory, painting the land in waves of golden light. Heat shimmered above the dusty trail, and the silence of the wilderness stretched for miles in every direction. It looked like an ordinary afternoon, the kind travelers crossed without a second thought. But before the day ended, blood would stain the dirt, legends would come alive, and a group of ruthless bandits would discover a mistake they would never survive. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of courage, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Soulful Stories. Your support helps us bring more unforgettable stories to life. The stagecoach rolled steadily along the lonely trail. Inside sat a young woman named Adelaide Mercer. She was known throughout nearby towns for her beauty, but those who truly knew her admired her kindness far more. At 26 years old, she had spent much of her life caring for her aging father and helping struggling families whenever she could. Her gentle heart had earned her respect everywhere she went. Across from her sat a weathered cowboy named Silas Crow. His gray had covered much of his face, and his worn coat looked older than some towns. His hands were rough from years of hard labor. Most people who glanced at him saw nothing more than another aging drifter traveling west. Adelaide had noticed him earlier at the station. He had barely spoken a word and kept to himself. There was something unusual about him, though. His eyes carried a sadness that seemed deeper than the desert itself. The coach rattled through a narrow canyon where steep walls rose on both sides. Suddenly, the horses screamed. A gunshot exploded through the air. The driver shouted. The coach jerked violently before grinding to a stop. Within seconds, 6 armed riders emerged from behind the rocks. Their leader was a scar-faced outlaw named Ezekiel Boone, one of the most feared bandits in the territory. He and his gang had robbed countless travelers and left many victims buried beneath desert sand. The passengers froze. Fear swept through the coach like wildfire. Boone climbed from his horse and approached with a cruel smile. His men surrounded the stagecoach, rifles aimed and ready. The driver surrendered immediately. The passengers handed over their valuables. Everything seemed routine until Boone's eyes landed on Adelaide. The outlaw stared for several seconds. A wicked grin slowly spread across his face. The frightened passengers lowered their heads. They knew what kind of men these were. Adelaide's heart pounded as Boone stepped closer. Silas remained seated quietly in the corner. The bandits barely glanced at him. To them, he looked harmless. Old. Forgettable. Worthless. The perfect man to ignore. That would prove to be the greatest mistake of their lives. Boone ordered his men to seize Adelaide. The terrified passengers wanted to help, but fear kept them frozen. One by one, they looked away. Adelaide struggled as the outlaws dragged her from the coach. The scorching sun seemed even hotter now. Dust swirled around her feet as she fought to stay calm. She searched desperately for help. Nobody moved. Nobody except the old cowboy. Silas slowly stood. His movements were calm. Measured. Almost lazy. One of the bandits laughed when he saw him. The gang found amusement in the sight of an aging cowboy attempting to interfere. Boone warned him to stay out of it. Silas simply looked toward Adelaide. For the first time, the young woman noticed something unusual in his eyes. The sadness was still there. But behind it lived something else. Something dangerous. Something ancient. Like a storm waiting beneath still water. The outlaw leader mocked him. Several gang members laughed. Silas lowered his head briefly. Perhaps he was considering walking away. Perhaps he was remembering another life. No one could know. Then something changed. The old cowboy glanced toward the dusty horizon. A distant memory seemed to pass through him. Years ago, he had made a promise. A promise to never again stand by while innocent people suffered. That promise had cost him everything. His family. His peace. His future. Yet despite all those losses, he had never broken it. Not once. And he would not start today. Boone ordered his men to take Adelaide away. The moment they turned their backs, Silas moved. The speed shocked everyone. 1 second he stood still. The next, his revolver appeared in his hand. Gunfire erupted. The first bandit's rifle flew from his grip. The second outlaw's weapon shattered before he could raise it. The third rider tumbled from his horse. The canyon echoed with explosions. Passengers screamed. Horses reared. Dust filled the air. The surviving bandits stared in disbelief. Nobody moved that fast. Especially not a gray-haired cowboy. Boone suddenly realized something horrifying. He recognized the name whispered by one of his terrified men. Silas Crow. The legendary gunslinger. The ghost of Red Canyon. For years, stories about Silas had spread across the frontier. Some claimed he once defeated 12 armed outlaws alone. Others swore he could draw faster than a rattlesnake could strike. Many believed he was dead. Many hoped he was. But now the legend stood before them. Very much alive. And very angry. The remaining bandits retreated into the canyon, dragging Adelaide with them. They knew they could not defeat Silas in open combat. The narrow rocks offered their only chance. Silas mounted a horse and pursued them without hesitation. The passengers watched in stunned silence. Moments earlier, he had seemed like an ordinary traveler. Now he looked like a force of nature. The chase thundered across the desert. Hooves pounded against the earth. Clouds of dust trailed behind. Adelaide remained trapped among the fleeing outlaws. Fear clawed at her heart. Yet hope had begun to grow. The mysterious cowboy had risked everything for someone he barely knew. That kind of courage was rare. Beautiful. Inspiring. Miles deeper into the canyon, the gang reached an abandoned mining settlement hidden among rocky cliffs. The place looked haunted. Collapsed buildings leaned against each other. Broken windows stared like empty eyes. Boone ordered his men to prepare an ambush. If Silas followed them inside, they would overwhelm him with numbers. The bandits spread throughout the ghost town. Rifles waited behind doors. Pistols hid behind windows. Every shadow concealed danger. Meanwhile, Silas arrived alone. The afternoon sun cast long golden rays across the abandoned settlement. Silence filled the air. Most men would have turned back. Silas kept walking. Each step echoed softly against the wooden boardwalk. The town seemed frozen in time. A place forgotten by the world. Yet danger lurked everywhere. A rifle fired from above. Silas reacted instantly. The bullet missed. Another shot came from a window. Then another. And another. The ambush had begun. Gunfire exploded from every direction. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Dust rose into the air. Still, Silas moved with incredible precision. Years of experience guided every motion. Every step. Every shot. The bandits had numbers. Silas had skill. And determination. One by one, the outlaws fell. Some surrendered. Others fled. A few fought until the end. The legendary gunslinger advanced through the town like a man chasing destiny itself. Inside an old hotel, Adelaide sat tied to a chair. Fear filled her eyes. She could hear gunfire outside. Hear shouting. Hear the battle growing closer. Then silence. Long, terrifying silence. Her heart pounded. The door slowly opened. For a moment she feared Boone had returned. Instead, she saw Silas standing there. Covered in dust. Exhausted. But alive. Relief flooded through her. The old cowboy cut her ropes and helped her stand. For the first time all day, Adelaide felt safe. Unfortunately, their ordeal was not over. Boone still lived. The outlaw leader emerged from hiding with a rifle aimed directly at them. Hatred burned in his eyes. Desperation made him reckless. The final confrontation had arrived. The setting sun bathed the ghost town in golden light. Long shadows stretched across the street. The entire world seemed to hold its breath. Boone raised his rifle. Silas reached for his revolver. Time slowed. Dust drifted through the air. A single gunshot shattered the silence. Then another. When the smoke cleared, Boone collapsed onto the dirt. The reign of terror was over. The outlaw who had spread fear across the territory would never harm another innocent soul. The sun slowly disappeared beneath the horizon. Peace finally returned. As Silas and Adelaide rode back toward civilization, neither spoke much. Some moments were too powerful for words. The journey felt different now. The danger had passed. But something meaningful remained. Adelaide learned that Silas had once been a famous lawman before tragedy destroyed his family. Grief had driven him into isolation. For years he wandered the frontier carrying painful memories and avoiding human connection. Saving Adelaide had reminded him of something he thought he had lost forever. Purpose. Hope. The belief that one person could still make a difference. Days later, when they reached town, people celebrated the fall of Boone's gang. News spread quickly across the territory. The legendary gunslinger had returned. But Silas cared little for fame. The gratitude in Adelaide's eyes meant more than any reputation. Before we reach the ending, if this story has touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to Soulful Stories. Your support allows these inspiring stories of courage and humanity to reach more people around the world. Special request: comment below with the word courage if you believe standing up for others is one of the greatest acts of strength. As the weeks passed, Adelaide continued helping families in need. Silas stayed in town longer than he intended. Together, they inspired countless people through simple acts of kindness and compassion. The greatest lesson from that extraordinary day was not about gunfights or legends. It was about character. The passengers saw an old cowboy and assumed he was weak. The bandits saw a lonely traveler and assumed he was harmless. But true strength often hides beneath ordinary appearances. Sometimes the person sitting quietly beside us carries battles we cannot imagine. Sometimes heroes wear no badge. Sometimes legends travel unnoticed. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks becomes the one who changes everything. On a bright afternoon beneath endless western skies, a group of ruthless bandits learned that lesson too late. Because when they kidnapped a beautiful woman, they never realized the cowboy beside her was not merely a traveler. He was a legend. And legends never abandon the innocent. The end.